You do something in your kitchen every single week, something you do specifically to save money, to not waste food, and it is quietly creating the conditions for one of the deadliest cancers in the human body, pancreatic cancer. 5-year survival rate, 13%. That is not a disease that gives you a second chance once it shows up. By the time you feel back pain, jaundice, unexplained weight loss, it has typically been developing for years, silently. And 4 specific foods sitting in your refrigerator right now are connected to it, not because of what they are, but because of what happens chemically when you reheat them. Now, there is one food on this list that is going to make you argue with me. I already know what you are thinking, and I am going to answer it. I am Dr. Kemi Lawson, internal medicine, over 20 years, and I am not here to scare you out of your own kitchen. I am here to walk you through each one, what is actually happening inside that food when heat touches it the second time, what the research says, and exactly what to do instead. Because that last part, that is the part nobody gives you. They tell you what not to do and leave you standing there. Not today. Before we start, tell me in the comments, do you reheat your leftovers during the week? Yes or no? And which food do you reheat most often? I read every single one. And honestly, your answers shape what I cover next. Okay, before I name the 4 foods, I need to say something. I already know what half of you are thinking. Because I hear it in my clinic, I see it in every comment section on every video like this. And it sounds like this. My grandmother reheated rice every single day of her life and lived to 97. If reheating food caused cancer, half of Asia would be gone. You are right to ask that. And I am not going to talk past it the way most videos do. Here is the honest answer. The risk is not about reheating food. Period. End of sentence. Everything is poison. That is not what the science says. The risk comes from 4 specific variables lining up together. Which food, what chemical it starts with, how long it sat before you reheated it, and how many times heat was applied. Your grandmother cooked rice in a pot on the stove. She cooked what the family ate that evening. The pot was empty by the end of dinner. She was not cooking a 5-day batch on Sunday, storing it in a plastic container, and microwaving portions all week long. The variable was never the rice. The variable was the storage time, the method, and the number of heat cycles. When you understand those 4 variables, the contradiction disappears. So let me show you the 4 foods, and for each one, I will tell you exactly which variable matters and what to do differently. Let us start with the one you are already arguing about, rice. And I told you I was going to answer it. So here it is. When you boil rice, you kill most bacteria. But one specific bacterium, Bacillus cereus, produces spores that survive boiling. Think of them like seeds that survive a wildfire. The heat wipes out everything around them, but these spores are built to wait it out. Once that rice cools down and sits on the counter, in a container, even in the fridge if you waited too long before putting it there, those spores wake up and start producing toxins. Here's the part that matters. When you reheat the rice, you kill the bacteria. Good. But the toxins they already made? Heat stable. They survive the microwave. They survive the stovetop. The bacteria are gone. The poison they left behind is still in your food. Short term, those toxins cause nausea, cramping, sometimes vomiting. Unpleasant, but you recover. Long term, and this is what most people never hear, repeated low-level exposure to those bacterial toxins feeds chronic inflammation in your gut lining. And chronic intestinal inflammation is one of the most well-documented pathways to gastrointestinal cancers. That connection is not debated. It is one of the most replicated findings in cancer research. Makes sense, right? It is not one bowl of leftover rice that is the problem. It is the same habit, every week, for years and decades. Dose times frequency times time. Okay, so here is exactly what to do. Cool your rice within 1 hour of cooking. Do not leave it sitting on the counter. Refrigerate it. Use it within 24 hours. Reheat it once to steaming hot all the way through, not just warm in the middle. And never reheat rice a second time. Here is a little pro tip. Cook your rice, and before it even cools down, portion it into single-serve containers. Put them straight into the fridge. That way you are never reheating a big batch over and over. You are reheating one portion once. Done. All right, the next one. And this is one nobody argues about because nobody was taught to think about it in the first place. Number 3, cooking oils, specifically reheating oil that has already been heated once and reheating anything that was cooked in that oil. Have you ever reused oil in a pan? Poured new food into the same oil from last night? Most people have, and most people know vaguely that reusing oil is not great. But here is what they do not know, and this is the part that actually matters. Think of cooking oil like the water in a mop bucket. The first pass, it is clean. It lifts the grime off the floor and does its job. But dip the mop back in and go again the next day, and you are just dragging yesterday's dirt across the floor. Every reuse, that water gets darker, and what it leaves behind is worse than what you started with. That is what happens inside cooking oil every time you reheat it. Here is the thing. The first round of heat starts a chemical reaction. The fatty acids in the oil react with oxygen and break down into compounds called aldehydes. Some of those are classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as probable human carcinogens. They damage DNA directly. Now, each time you reheat that oil, or reheat food that was fried in it, the reaction picks up where it left off. More aldehydes, more damage, and the smoke point of that oil drops with every use. So it reaches its toxic breakdown point faster and at lower temperatures each time. You may not see smoke. The damage is already happening. And when you microwave fried food, the surface heats unevenly. Some spots scorch at very high temperatures, while others barely warm up. Those scorched areas produce the highest concentrations of these harmful compounds. You cannot see it, but it is there. So what do you do instead? Use cooking oil once, discard it after. If you have leftover fried food and you really want to reheat it, use an oven at moderate temperature that warms it evenly instead of scorching the surface. And consider switching to an oil with a higher smoke point for one-time use. Avocado oil, for example. Your body thanks you for it. Quick pause. If something I have said so far made you rethink what is sitting in your fridge right now, take 1 second and hit subscribe. It genuinely helps this reach more people who cook at home every day and have never heard any of this. All right, back to it. Now, number 2, and this one surprises people the most: spinach and other nitrate-rich greens, celery, beetroot, kale. Now I can already feel some of you pulling back. Spinach? Really? You eat spinach specifically because it is healthy. You add it to everything because the nutrition advice you have heard for decades has been correct. Spinach is rich in iron, folate, vitamins, antioxidants, all true, when it is fresh. The problem starts after you cook it and let it sit. Think of cooked spinach in your refrigerator like a cast iron pan you put away a little damp. Hang it up and the surface looks just fine, but out of sight underneath, rust is quietly setting in, and by the time you notice, the change is already done. Here is what is happening. Fresh spinach contains natural nitrates, completely harmless, actually beneficial for blood pressure. But when you cook spinach and then let it sit, even in the fridge, bacteria and enzymes inside the cooked vegetable start converting those harmless nitrates into nitrites. The longer it sits, the more nitrites build up. When you reheat it, heat drives those nitrites into nitrosamines. Nitrosamines, you will hear about these again when we get to processed meat in a moment, are classified by the World Health Organization's Cancer Research Arm as established carcinogens linked to gastrointestinal and pancreatic cancers. That matters. Research published in the journal Foods found that boiled spinach stored more than 12 hours at room temperature showed significant nitrite buildup. That same nitrate to nitrosamine conversion I just described. Same pathway applies to celery, beetroot, kale. The irony is precise. The vegetable you are reheating specifically because it is healthy is chemically becoming something that works against the very protection it was supposed to give you. Wild, right? But here's the good news, and this is the part that matters. Cold does not drive that reaction. Heat does. Okay, so here's what you do. If you have leftover cooked spinach, eat it cold. Toss it into a salad, wrap it in a tortilla with some hummus. It is fine cold. Just do not reheat it. Or, even simpler, keep a bag of pre-washed baby spinach or arugula in your fridge for tomorrow. Cook fresh greens tonight in the amount you will actually eat. No leftovers, no problem. Now, number 1, and this is the food that carries the strongest evidence of everything we have covered today: processed meat, hot dogs, bacon, sausage, ham, deli cuts, canned meat, anything that has been cured, smoked, or preserved using nitrates and nitrites. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, that is the World Health Organization's cancer research body, classified processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen. Not probable, not possible. Group 1, the same category as tobacco smoking. Now, that does not mean it is as dangerous as tobacco. It means the evidence that it causes cancer is equally strong. That is an important difference, but it is still a serious classification. Here is a way to think about it. A fresh cut of chicken or steak is like a stick of kindling sitting dry in the garage. Nothing is happening to it. Processed meat is different. It is like kindling already soaked in lighter fluid. The nitrates and nitrites used to cure it have already started producing nitrosamines, cancer-linked compounds, before you even open the package. So when you bring heat to it, you are not lighting a clean piece of wood. You are putting a flame to something already primed to catch. When you reheat it, especially at high heat, frying, microwaving on high, you are not starting with a clean slate. You are applying heat to a food that already contains documented carcinogens. And heat accelerates that reaction. More heat, longer exposure, more nitrosamines. Research examining dietary nitrosamine intake has found that high levels are associated with elevated pancreatic cancer risk specifically. So with processed meat, reheating is not the only problem. It is the amplifier. The chemistry was loaded before you opened the package. You ready for a story? Let me tell you about someone. I will call her Maureen, 68 years old, a retired school teacher from Spokane, Washington. She came to see me about 18 months ago with complaints she had been brushing off for over 2 years, bloating after meals, cramping that came and went, a heaviness in her stomach that she had written off as, and these are her words, just my age. When I sat down with her and went through her daily eating habits, one pattern jumped out immediately. Every morning, every single morning for years, Maureen reheated leftover breakfast sausage from the day before, sometimes ham. She would cook a big batch on the weekend and microwave portions all week. She thought she was being efficient, saving time, saving money. Nobody had ever told her what was happening inside that food each time she pressed reheat. Her issue was not cancer, I want to be clear about that, but her colonoscopy showed chronic irritation in her lower GI tract, low-grade, persistent inflammation. And when she changed that one habit, stopped reheating processed meat, started cooking fresh eggs in the morning instead, her symptoms started improving within weeks. She told me something I have not forgotten. She said, "I spent 40 years telling my students to ask more questions, and not one doctor ever asked me what I was heating up every morning." That is the gap. That is the conversation that should happen in the clinic, but almost never does. Not because your doctor does not care, because there is not enough time to cover everything. So here is what you do. If you eat processed meat, and look, I'm not telling you to never eat it. Every now and then you have it. You are going to be fine. But do not microwave yesterday's sausage on high for tomorrow's breakfast. Tomorrow morning, scramble 2 eggs, slice an avocado. You just replaced a carcinogen amplifier with a meal your body actually thanks you for. 4 foods, 4 specific changes, not a new diet, not a lifestyle overhaul. Rice, cool it within 1 hour, refrigerate, reheat once only to steaming hot, portion it before it cools. Cooking oils, use once, discard. Reheat fried food in an oven at moderate heat if you must. Never microwave it. Spinach and leafy greens, eat them cold the next day. Salad, wrap, whatever you like. Just do not reheat them. Processed meat, eat it fresh that meal once. Tomorrow's breakfast gets fresh eggs, not yesterday's sausage out of the microwave. Maureen changed one habit, and felt the difference within weeks. You now know 4. None of this requires you to stop enjoying food. It requires you to understand what happens to these specific foods the second time heat touches them. and to make a different choice, a small one, tonight. Oh, one more thing. If any of this made you think about your own situation, bring these questions to your own doctor. They know your history. I do not. If this video gave you something you will actually use this week, send it to someone in your family who cooks at home. Not for this channel, for them, for the person who reheats leftovers every morning and has never once thought about what is happening inside that food. That share might be the most useful thing you do for their health today. Subscribe if you have not. More honest conversations about what the science actually says about the food choices that matter are coming. Next time, we are covering the breakfast foods that are marketed as healthy and that research increasingly says are doing the opposite, especially for adults over 60. You are going to want to see that one. I am Dr. Kemi Lawson. Protect your health with the information your kitchen never came with.